Chipotle fundraiser coming up. Megan is having her sustainability showcase night coming up. And her sustainable essentials for college students. Yay! That will be exciting. Please make sure to tell your friends about that. The Wilderness Center, who we are going to try to partner with, they're hosting a dark sky conservation conference. I can send out a PDF in the following email for this. But it's basically an all-day event on Saturday. It's going to be virtual, and it's $20 for the access code to Zoom. There's officer opportunities coming up. You're all officers, so you know that. Thrifting was a success. I think everyone got something that they liked, and most people found something for this tablet, so that's good. Do you want to do a quick education to
Sure. We've got Sustainability Showcase Night coming up on November 4th, which is our members did passion projects, and so you can get an assortment of short like TED Talk, similar like talks, super fun. And then we also have our Sustainable Essentials for College Students to find out how you can do some basic swaps in your everyday life with your essentials so that you can be a little more sustainable. Because little differences make a big impact. There you go. There are prize baskets.
Jacob's not here, but I know that they are working on actual construction of the wind turbine, so that's exciting. Nora is not here, but I know that they're getting very close to having the shredder complete, and she was saying that probably in the next few weeks that will be wrapped up, so that's exciting. Yeah.
So it seems like all of our electrical stuff for bike power is done, and it's universal no matter what generator we use, as long as like the voltage and some of the other specs are the same. But we are trying to find a different generator than what we have, just due to like our gear ratios would be pretty whack, I guess, if we use the ones we have now. So just kind of finalizing, maybe getting a new generator, but we kind of found the conversions or what we, how we would calculate the gear sizes. But yeah, I guess we could say we're just researching a new generator right now, but could possibly use one we have. So.
Alright, we do have a Future Earth meeting Friday at 1:30. There was a professor from the Geosciences department that reached out to me and was interested in helping with this, so that's exciting. It should be about an hour-long meeting. It will be virtual, and Dr. Mackenzie and Heidi will be there as well. And then our upcoming events, we have the Chipotle fundraiser, Sustainability Showcase Night, and Sustainable Essentials Night. So without further ado, Mr. Andrew Hendry will be our speaker today. He graduated from the University of Akron in 2013 with a Bachelor's of Science in Special Education and Teaching, and from Kenyon College in 2009 with his BA in History. He's currently the Director of Building Services, Grounds and Special Services at the University of Akron, and he's going to talk to us today about recycling and composting initiatives on campus. I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Well, I appreciate the invitation tonight. This is one of my favorite topics. For the last 18 months, I have singularly been focused on contending with COVID. So this is actually refreshing. You will have to forgive me though, because I'm without 2020's data for recycling and composting. We have the data, it's just I haven't been able to process it quite yet. So I'm going to start with talking about how much and what types of materials that we recycle. So cardboard, obviously, in most of the 58 buildings on campus, we have a collection site for OCC, which is old corrugated containers or cardboard, at the shipping and receiving area of that particular building. And 2019, last complete year of information we had, we did about 68 tons. So that's one of our biggest streams of waste. We also don't like the word waste because it is a material that we can do so much with. Commingled, that's the single stream recyclables that you see throughout the buildings. Those are, that stream actually fluctuates from year to year. This was a particularly heavy year, a lot of participation, and that's 297 tons, which is, again, one of our highest streams. I think in this particular year was our highest stream. There's a caveat to that number, and I'll talk about some of our challenges at the very end, but that number could be inflated, or it could be more, it could be less. Fluorescent bulbs, batteries, that type of thing. Our health and safety are actually folks who process those, collect them, and report back the numbers. Electronics, that's primarily, not so much students or faculty's personal devices. That's more so the University of Akron's surplus property. And that we have an entire department dedicated to surplus property, and they manage it and outsource it, try to sell it, reuse it, what have you. In some rare occasions, repair. But there is an emphasis on trying to reuse it rather than just. And then there's a lot of challenges in the recycling. So you think you have a vendor who can recycle electronics. They rent a warehouse, they take out the valuable components of said electronics, and then they break the lease, and and now all this stuff's gone to the landfill. So electronics or e-waste is very tricky. Toner, those are toner cartridges. To think we use 2 tons worth of toner cartridges on campus, that's pretty crazy. Ferrous and non-ferrous metals, a lot of that number fluctuates with how much projects we're doing on campus. And then mixed organics, i.e. food scraps. This is probably the one I'm most passionate about. We did a pilot program back in 2010 to 2013, which was successful for the time, but and it was funded through a grant from, at the time, they were called, let me see if I can remember, Solid Waste Management Authority, Akron Summit County Solid Waste Management Authority, or SSWAMA. Yeah, it's not the greatest acronym, but now they rebranded as REWorks, and I'm actually very privileged to sit on that board of trustees. So I get to help manage the entirety of Summit County's waste, which is, they're not managed, but I get to have a little say in it, which is good. Paper, this is the stream that we've been doing the longest, 20 plus years with the same company, River Valley Paper Company, they're local. And it's probably one of our most, folks participating the most. So we have 96-gallon toters. A toter is essentially what you take your trash in it on at home. And we have those behind the scenes in office complexes throughout. And once a week, we have an employee go and check every single one of them. We have hundreds and hundreds of these on campus, and wheel them down to the receiving area. And River Valley will bring a compaction truck, and that's how we get all the used paper out of these buildings. It's very laborious. Yes, please.
I know you said you didn't have the 2020 numbers with you, but by chance, do you know if the number dropped kind of dramatically because of COVID?
I'm anticipating a big drop, almost. I've glanced at them, and yeah, with no office personnel here, the paper essentially goes away. Compost was difficult. Most of it was grab and take, and we don't do a whole lot on the post-consumer end. We do a lot on the pre-consumer end. So our compost was devastated. It's pretty bleak. But we also didn't generate a lot of waste either, though.
Yeah.
I guess there's textiles. Once a year, we do a clothing drive that coincides with move out. Because once I was cleaning up a President's Hall, and I happened to see students throwing away their textiles, and I was like, mind blown. I'm like, holy moly, you can't let this happen. Tires, we use a lot of tires. We have a fleet, maintenance vehicles, used oil, same, and wood pallets, every shipping and receiving. So those are the primary items that we recycle here on campus. Now, so for the total for 2019 was 633 tons, which is just a massive amount of waste. Looking back, 2011, between 2011 and 2012, something happened. We went from source separated recyclables to commingled, and we immediately started to see an influx, which was really nice. It makes it less complicated for the end user, takes some of the guesswork out of it. Plus, people are lazy, and it has to be simple. And that's another challenge. So one of our challenges, I was going to say it to the end, but I'm going to interject. One of the challenges we have is what's called bin parity. So for every trash can, we need a recycling bin. That's complicated because we have thousands and thousands of trash receptacles on campus, and recycling bins aren't cheap. And then you're essentially doubling the amount of work. So our available labor, it has been devastating. So we're on the process of rebuilding that and trying to bring even our recycling initiative back up to where it needs to be after a couple hard years so far. But yeah, those are some of the challenges. Bin parity and recycling is pretty laborious. So, but we're going in the right direction. Okay. So that was just kind of an introduction to what we are recycling. I want to focus now on food scrap recycling. That's kind of a passion project of mine. So after 2013, the grant that we were using to fund the program dried up. So there was a hiatus between 2013 and 2017. In 2017, Physical Facilities partnered up with Aramark, and Aramark has been an incredible partner in recycling compost. We started with Robertson Dining Hall. The approach was twofold. It was capturing waste plus waste minimization. So we, facilities, were an expert on capturing waste and getting it to the right people. And Aramark was an expert on waste minimization, specifically, again, with the pre-consumer back-of-house preparation, because they're motivated by dollars and cents, and we're motivated by, obviously, we have a lot of environmental stewards in our department, plus less stuff that we have to handle, more labor we save. So also, one other thing enabled this whole initiative, and that was Paradise Lawn Care had opened up a space for us after the College of Worcester was essentially kicked out for contamination. Paradise is a Class 2 composting facility out in Worcester. That's actually Smithville, Ohio, so about 30 minutes away. But so the proximity made sense when we were trying to see, does it make sense to ship all this stuff so far? What is the proximity that would make sense or not? Plus, again, the EPA regulates how much material or food scraps that Paradise can actually bring in. And so there was a lot of back and forth with Paradise, and they can handle essentially zero contamination. It just cannot happen. They have no way to process it out of their method for creating soil amendments and compost, finished compost. So this right here, so one of the my guys and gals hate me. So one of the fail safes to make sure that we weren't sending contaminated material out is periodically we'll follow a load out and go through it, and people hate that. So this is my good friend Chuck. and he's raking through the compost to check for plastics. That first time we ever took it, this was the first time we had ever took it. And there was a bag of chicken breasts. Chicken breasts were accepted, but the bag they were in was plastic. So there was a little bit of a learning curve, feedback to Robertson Dining Hall, telling them what cannot go. So as far as waste minimization, Aramark was using a technology called Lean Path, which is fantastic. They were collecting and monitoring all their trimmings, all their wasted food, all their overstock, all of their over preparation. It's all their expiration. So Lean Path will photo document it, and then it has a program that assigns a monetary amount. And if you want an auxiliary, pay attention, you start talking in dollars and cents. So they revamped their entire approach to food preparation. And they are so lean and cognizant of waste, it's incredible. So much so, that process or that technology was in place for 4 or 5 years, and now they feel like they're at a point that they can back away from it. I believe they still document weight, but I think they've gotten away from paying for the Lean Path subscription and photo document it, but I do believe they still track weight. So, kind of the process here. Once it leaves Robertson, this compactor here was specifically designed to house food scraps, and it's located behind Robertson Dining Hall. It has no steams, no way for the smell to escape, per se. But again, it's specifically meant to help mitigate the smell, the odor of rotting food, and capture to make sure that no runoff gets into the sewer system. So once the food goes from Robinson's kitchen to the bin, which ends up into the compactor, that compactor is shipped off to Worcester Paradise Class 2 compost facility, and then it comes back to Akron. Well, a percentage comes back to Akron in the form of soil amendment or finished compost. And we've been using, let me see, so I don't speak out of turn. I believe we use about 30 yards of compost every year to amend our bin. And what that has allowed us to do was get away from fertilizer use, a lot of pesticides because they're healthier plants, and enables us to have just beautiful landscape. We went, in our previous years, we had fertilized our landscape beds 4 times a year. We do an initial one time, get them started, and now it's essentially hands off, which is exceptionally nice. That saves on labor. That's all because of the end product that Paradise is putting out. Please interject. You don't have to raise hands or anything. Yeah. So I'm gonna brag a little bit about our beds while we talk about. This was last year's. Our groundskeepers, again, a little off topic, but our groundskeepers do really just a great job, and the Ohio Landscape Association has awarded them several times in the past years specifically for their annual installations. But again, compost makes all this possible. Yeah, this was one of my favorite arrangements. This year's is pretty nice too, but while we're talking about sustainability, we've from both a fiscal responsibility angle and a sustainability angle, we're going more and more with perennials. Don't require as much water, and annuals are extremely expensive. I'm sorry?
I said that big on.
Yeah, holy moly. So, again, just bragging a little bit. Any chance I get to brag on our groundskeepers, I really try to.
Tell them I like the flowers.
Okay, well,
Yeah, just like,
When I go on, I give campus tours and the parents
that's awesome.
it lights everyone up when they go into the commons and see all the flowers and stuff. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I've been meaning to talk to the registrar's office about, I know you guys will do surveys on impressions of campus and things. I'd love for them to include something about the physical space.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's just every tour I go on, in the middle of winter even, they're just like, wow, the grass still looks really nice. You know, everything just looks nice all the time.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll pass it along. Let's see here. Okay, so this is some of the numbers that we're doing month to month coming out of Robertson. So we talked about Robertson. We had such success coming out of Robertson, but we were also really scared to expand to the student union. Student union's like Wild Wild West. And we have to have complete control of that stream because, again, Paradise will not tolerate any contamination. So we have to be extremely picky, and we scaled up very slowly, place by place by place. But now we're in the student union and in Robertson. And this is the amount of food scraps that would have went into the landfill. And it's month by month. You'll notice that we don't do anything during the summer. Twofold. We are completely incapable of mitigating the odor during the hot months. And that odor mitigation is the single most important factor in maintaining a food scrap recycling program or a compost facility. More Class 2 compost facilities have been shut down over lack or inability to mitigate their odor than any other reason. So, but yeah, since August of 2017, this only reflects again through 19. We've 149,000 pounds, which is pretty incredible. And that's also why we don't do post-consumer, because it's really hard to control what the patrons or the students, faculty, staff do.
Do you think you guys will expand to Polsky and the law building as well?
We would like to. We've talked about law a lot. Not so much Polsky yet. And Polsky's kind of on an island.
Yeah.
And the shipping and receiving space is a disaster. It's even hard to get. It's difficult to even get the day-to-day trash out of that building, let alone add another street to it. But yeah, I think law is probably the next step. I'm a big proponent of small success rather than a large-scale failure. That's why we're taking it slow. And we have to, again, rebound from having a labor shortage.
I wouldn't call 149,000 pounds a small success. That's a big success.
Well, I appreciate that. In addition to food scraps, it makes sense that we're recycling yard waste as much as possible. We have a network of community gardens that just love our leaves. So we oblige them.
What do you guys do with the plants at the end of every season? When you tear them out of the union? Or in the commons, sorry, what do you do with those plants?
Those are landfilled.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Have you guys thought about selling them on campus to students?
Those are mostly annual flowers. That's interesting.
When I saw the elephant
It'd be like
ears
cut
this year,
flowers, yeah.
Yeah, the elephant ears this year, I was like, wow,
Wow.
I really want those.
I will tell you this, and this is a bit of insider information. So if you're familiar with the labyrinth and Coleman Common,
Yeah.
those tropical flowers we've had now for 3 seasons. We were lent space to house them in a greenhouse. That deal is no longer, so we have to find an outlet for them. So rather than landfill them, I've turned them into surplus property. So they're going to go up for auction
Oh,
if you want.
I
And
want
that's a couple $1,000s worth of plant material. So you
Have
have
you
one in
guys-
your dorm room.
I don't know what green space or what greenhouse you're using, but have you thought about Stan Hewitt asking these part of their greenhouse?
We've reached out to a couple folks. We've actually reached out to the folks who sold us the tropicals 3 seasons ago and asked them if they would have wanted it back to give us a credit. The folks in surplus property are really trying to house them, and at the very least, they're going to be bought and appreciated somewhere else.
Yeah.
I don't know how many pictures of a backhoe loading up leaves you can see.
When you're getting rid of like the compost and stuff, like do you sell that compost or any of the compost?
No.
You just give it away to to people that.
So the Paradise, they charge us a nominal fee let me make sure I'm saying this right. It's a tipping fee. So we pay 2 fees, actually we pay 3 fees for the compost program to exist.
Okay.
We rent the compactor. We pay Republic Services to transport it to the Class 2 compost facility. And then we pay a tipping fee, which is a fee X amount of dollars per ton. So that it's actually costing money.
It probably would have been cheaper to just like either want to even have like professors, some of the professors and just engineers on campus like design one. I mean, we have how many engineers on campus, and how many people know how to weld and put things together?
The compactor itself, that cost is eventually going to fall off. We're essentially paying for it to have it built, and that rental fee will actually go away eventually.
Okay.
But as we've investigated trying to compost more on campus, but it is just simply over-regulated. You can't have a residence within X amount of feet. You have to have a blacktop driveway within X amount of feet. There's you have to have a leachate management program. So leachate.
Yeah, with the residential.
The residential is pretty much a no-go.
Yeah.
And then it's unregulated up to a certain amount, and I think that's like 5 tons, and we do way more than that. So,
Yeah.
it's a fair question, and it's something that we investigated. Just a quick picture here of that's a blown up picture of what Jamie here. He's our grounds manager, and he was having a bad day. He could not. He was not crazy about the smell. Very good. I'm going to move away from composting and talk about a waste audit that we did in February of 2020. So I was very fortunate to be asked to co-instruct a class on campus called Deep Dumpster Dive with Lisa. Yeah, it got pretty real quick. I don't think people were ready for it.
It's amazing what you can pick up from dumpsters.
Oh, it's incredible. The amount of waste is eye-opening, to say the least. So
I've got plenty of table saws and miter saws and working drills and a bunch of different tools.
Oh.
I mean, my desk came from a dumpster.
yeah,
And I've got a series of extra computers, older computers, there's still like extra computers that I can use at any time from the dumpsters. So,
if you guys are ever trying to furnish anything, reach out to surplus property. You can go down there and see what they have, and a lot of the stuff can be repurposed on campus, but some of it won't.
you said it's called surplus property?
Yeah, surplus property. So again, we had a small class, 2 instructors in February of 2020. We did a waste audit of the student union. That's what the students had decided to do.
Mhm.
So we audited the landfill stream of the student union. So, part of that was, let me open this up real quick. Okay, so in the student union, we divided the student union up between several different sectors. One was common spaces, and those would be designated with black liners in the trash. We did Union Market and the surrounding seating with yet another color liner or trash bag. Then we did the food court, Annie Ann's, I can't remember the restaurants, it seems like it always changed. But, and then that seating there with yet another color. And then third floor, which was event specific, we did had another color liner. We wanted to designate so we would be able to tell where the waste was coming from, what type of waste, and be able to provide that necessary feedback to the people who are throwing these types of things away. So this is an example. This is over by Union Market. It was a green liner.
I was wondering why they were different colors.
I was gonna say, I
Where are all the different colored trash bags?
I have PTSD from working there.
So yeah, and, you know, and then probably most important, the restrooms were red for biohazard. We weren't going to sort through restroom trash. So then, let me see if I can. Okay, here we go. So the night before we had the compactor, the waste specific landfill compactor at the student union emptied. And for a 24-hour period, trash went into that compactor and then was dumped into our landing space here on South Campus. You'll see Exchange in the background, Exchange Residence Hall, and then South Hall to the right.
That explains that day.
What's that?
I believe I'm driven by it
Yeah.
on that day.
We have
I was like, what was going on there?
Yeah, we have a big salt dome to the left.
That explains that.
So we weighed every stream or every division rather. Let's see.
And I was wondering why you had so much salt, like all this salt. Besides like salt in the road and stuff like that. Huh.
This was a picture of the loose material that for somehow did not make it into a liner. This is actually believe it or not, a volunteer who wanted to help out. And so initially in that first day, we sorted one of the divisions. This is us a couple days later. We were very fortunate that it was cold outside and that the trash wouldn't rot. Again, the process was we divided the stream into sections. We had a 24-hour period collected. We dumped it in our staging locations, and we started sorting out. I prefer pictures. So these were some of the types of plastics. These are truly landfill plastics. There's nothing we can do with them. This is Lisa, my co-instructor. We found some oddities. Besides the ice cream scooper, we found
Someone didn't want to do the dishes.
Yeah, exactly. This really, this like took me for a loop. All this stuff is sealed and presumably still good. And why in the world would it make its way into a landfill container?
Maybe they didn't like the flavor, and they're like, yeah. They're like, I bought 20 packs.
These bars are like $4.69 a piece. You're gonna give it away. But I'll that's worth some of this stuff.
Other places that also throw away a lot of charity, surprisingly, go to charity and like a lot of the stuff they can't actually like accept, or people donate things that they don't like deal with or cover.
Oh,
so rather than sending it to another place, they tend to just throw it out as well. I mean, like this one charity on the bridge, we go through dumpsters,
Absolutely.
dumpsters every week.
There's a term called wish cycling, and you know your container at home, you want it to be recyclable, so you throw it in the recycling container. But the MRF, the materials recovery facility, where this materials will eventually land, they can't processes, so it's gonna go to landfill, and you've actually got more harm because it's gonna be handled more than just once.
But even still, like the stuff that they send in to be recycled, or people assume aren't recyclable and are sent into landfills are actually recyclable, which is, in our economy, they think, or they consider it not financially as profitable, and so they don't accept it.
Yep.
So you don't really see it recycled other than in third world nations where it's more profitable than that.
Yep. And that's, case in point here as of late is glass. They don't want to do much of anything with glass because it's not profitable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's,
Doesn't make sense.
Because it's
Why is it
infinitely
infinitely
recyclable.
recyclable, like,
that, and also there's been a shortage on where we can actually get sand.
Yes.
There's been a shortage of sand and finding glass. I mean, that's one reason why, like I say, Boston pickles at like John Eagle White couldn't find them, was because they don't have the glass for the jars. And so they can't sell them. They don't have the jars. And yet they're not recycling them.
It's crazy. So yeah, toothpaste, I can't try to rationalize why toothpaste would be in the landfill container.
Someone doesn't like brushing their teeth. Like cavities, they like the feel of it. There's masking.
But you can see a lot of this, the polyethylene, the aluminum, all this stuff, the fiber off of the Wendy's, or I'm sorry,
Like you can get some plastic bags and you can make shoes out of plastic bags or with the styrofoam. You can like melt it down and make picture frames and solid structures.
absolutely.
I mean,
A lot of this is fiber, some plastic, and the aluminum, obviously, polyethylene bottles, plastic bottles.
Would Paradise take the molded fiber with the contaminants on it because it would most likely break down, or because that probably couldn't be recycled with the cardboard because of that contamination?
Any of the fiber materials, even the wax fiber, they will accept.
they will.
Okay. I work with molded fiber. I'm doing an internship right now, so I've been told otherwise. But if Paradise would accept it, then
They're pretty picky, and they haven't come back with with any restrictions on molded or wax. But you very well could be, there could be a shift coming.
But we'll see also the ones that tend to be more picky tend to also have less equipment dealing with cleaning the materials, as well as actually handling different levels of acidity, limiting the kinds of fluids or contaminants mixed in. There's those that handle more, they actually have a mixing with washing process, or ones to neutralize any kind of acids and bases within the stuff. So there's that too.
Yes. So and this ought to be outlawed. I mean, you have proteins like this that are being tossed out. And then here's the big culprit, where we just have yet to find an answer for styrofoam here in Northeast Ohio.
That would be, we can actually just melt that in the mold and turn it, and it could be used kind of just like any other plastic. I mean,
There was a company out of North Canton a number of years ago, this was probably 8 years ago now, but they had a machine that they referred to as a densifier, and they would shred it and densify it into logs, and then ship these logs to Detroit to be reused in headrests and different uses for the automobile manufacturing.
yeah, that's another thing I was thinking of, because I mean, I've seen a couple of videos of different companies that even now are starting up again to condense the styrofoam and turn it into products like picture frames or parts for shoes or little toys and things.
It's a big problem. Personally, what I would like to see is like a student-led push to ban styrofoam from campus in general.
We'll do it.
Yeah, we'll do it.
So, for companies like Chick-fil-A, if there were a ban of styrofoam on campus, since Chick-fil-A is its own company, would they have to get different cups at the location on campus?
That's a great question, and one, unfortunately, I can't answer. I've actually written.
Probably replace it with paper cups. I mean, it's not that much more than that. honestly.
Because like even I think Panda does styrofoam.
Yeah.
Yeah, Panda's a pretty,
Because like I don't think, I know the Union Market, it's styrofoam for the drinks, but everything else is either paper or plastic. But
yeah, I've asked Chick-fil-A, in addition to the styrofoam, one of the problems that they have is the actual pouch that the sandwiches come in. And it's like a hybrid. We can't do much with it, so it gets landfill.
because it's paper and
It's paper, and then, yeah, it's a different material on the inside.
I will say that, there's like a company I looked up before, that they actually, make, like a biodegradable foam from mushrooms actually. Like it grows, uses a specific kind of, specific part of the mushroom, the like top of it, and they, grow it into the shape of the, structure that they're going to produce. And it actually fills in the space quite well. If you grow it right, it will fill in how much space you want. So then you come with like clothes pods, sometimes the packaging, or you can put cups and stuff and molds.
Yeah, and one thing that we were looking at as a substitute
Is that
for, no kidding, edible as well, for the formed press board or cardboard was bamboo or that type of compostable wares.
you want to keep it just boiling? Basically.
And then, just real quick, I don't know if any of you have visited the countywide landfill south of Canton, but we took a class there for a trip as well, and the site is, in regards specifically to scale, it is incredible. It's simply massive, and they have 100 years worth more of space. And I believe they said that the current elevation can go up 200 more feet within their permit.
Do they plant grass over that eventually, right? Like at a certain period in time?
Once it closes. What you'll see here is they've enveloped the old portion of the landfill with a screen to capture methane gas because it was so very mismanaged and polluted previously by the previous owner. And I believe they burned that methane off. The real story here, in my opinion, is the amount of leachate, the amount of water that goes through that material. It is a lined landfill so that the water nice to the bottom has to then be transported to a water treatment plant. That's incredible. Hundreds of millions of gallons of water transported every annually. That's what kind of took me off my feet. That's where they store the leachate. Well, that kind of gives you an idea of the elevation. I visited 2 different seasons, once during the winter, and this was during the spring. But it's pretty incredible at it. And if you want to contact for the landfill, and if you want to visit, just let me know.
probably be better to go to in the winter than in the summer, right?
They do an exceptional job of mitigating the odor. It's pretty incredible.
Also, probably like the gases as well, the gases and the smells overall would like condense and come back for like the winter.
Absolutely, and they're required to cover all the face of the landfill, every single unit. So there's no exposed rotting material.
How do they put the new material in if it's covered? I know that
They stack it on top.
and then they just
keep
add another
going.
cover.
But I do find it kind of interesting. I don't like just the idea of landfills in general. Like I understand like I'm putting all those trash in one spot, it's still just like making a death trap and just,
Yeah. The amount of waste that goes to that landfill, there's no infrastructure in place for it to go anywhere else right now. It'd take a huge investment to keep it out of the landfill. But, so once we got the different liners, so I think yellow, I had failed to put the form on that reminded me which was which. Red was restrooms, I believe yellow was Starbucks. Black was general areas, these were the unidentified loose items. And then, again, I think maybe perhaps was the event. Anyhow, I think that's the total weight here out of that one day of collecting waste and going through it was 1,600 pounds. The materials that were truly dedicated to landfill, that was 810 pounds. And the stuff that we were able to do were 793. So essentially half of what ended up in that compactor could eventually, go to a renewable stream.
So hypothetically, if there was the parity bins and people used them properly, 793 pounds would be diverted every day.
That's right. I mean, that's exactly right. Some factors, we have different amounts of folks who travel through the union Monday through Friday. Again, our heavy days, but this is kind of what this looks like. So yeah, obviously, the amount of people in the building is going to have an effect. The time of the year, summer session is obviously lighter, fall. So this is hour by hour. This is actually day of our waste audit. So I think we were in the 8,000s for the amount of people who traveled through the student union that particular day. So 8,334.
How was that tracked, like every time the door opened? Or?
Door counters.
So there are probably more.
Yeah, I've been asked a couple times about how that's calculated. Well, wouldn't it account twice? I said, I think they account for that. I know this is something they pay for, so I think they've got to figure it out.
Even if it does count twice, like 4,000 is still like a lot of
It's a
people.
lot.
I'm thinking if all of us went to school union right now, we'd have one door be open for 6 people.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Probably
And then how do you account for, I'm a big door holder, so I'll have six folks.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but yeah, for that day, the number we're using is 8,000, give or take around 8,000. And to your point, half of the materials that we collected out of the landfill stream could have been recycled. Kind of our big story, some of the students' takeaways is just the amount of styrofoam. It was incredible. It's virtually weightless. Yeah.
So with the styrofoam, I know it would probably be harder to get Chick-fil-A and Panda to not use the styrofoam, but why doesn't the university itself not use the styrofoam cups in the market?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know they had gotten away from it altogether, but
Yeah, because when I started, they weren't styrofoam.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that would be a question for Airmark.
so. Okay.
Yeah, we're at physical facilities. We're kind of in charge of getting, collecting as much material as we can and making sure that it goes to its proper place. That's why we're so obsessed with things like e-waste. We want to make sure it's being responsibly recycled. Kind of the last thing I wanted to do was talk about our challenges. I mentioned a lot of them. Labor, obviously, this is not unique to the University of Akron. This is nationwide right now. Bin parity, there's costs associated with trying to every waste receptacle with a receptacle. In theory, we could eliminate a lot of waste receptacles if we were able to pair them up with recycle bins, because overall we would not have to have as many landfill containers. Let's see, I can't read my stuff. Outreach. Outreach has always been difficult. And the education piece, we're physical facilities. We're not specifically good at marketing our programs. And we don't have a designated staff for recycling. Everybody wears multiple caps, and we do our very best. And we could benefit university-wide with the dedicated sustainability office, with somebody focused in on waste minimization and waste management. And then the last challenge, and this is the big one, it's front-end loading dumpsters. I hate it. Why? Because there's no way to get weight off it. It's all volume. It's all estimates based on the volume of the container. So an 8-yard container, an average of 50 pounds per 8-yard container, multiplied or extrapolated by, this container is picked up 5 times per week. That doesn't really give us a whole lot. So an 8-yard container picked up 5 times a week, that's 40 yards a week times 50 pounds per yard. That gives us a nice round number, but that bin's not always full. The yards aren't always averaging 50 pounds per yard. There's no good way to find that. So right now we're seeing an emergence of devices that you can plug into the dumpsters, and using sonar, it will tell you approximately how full the bin is, which is neat. And that would help give us a better guess, but it still would be a guess because we can't weigh these particular, all these front-end loading. There's the waste industry, waste haulers, I should say. They're starting to mount their trucks that pick up the bins with scales, but they require constant calibration, and they are not very accurate. And again, it would take a huge investment on their part to be able to equip each truck with. So that's not going to happen anytime soon. So we don't have a good number for how much waste we're actually doing every year, which is kind of disappointing. That's one of the reasons we did the audit. So now we can kind of, we did our busiest building, we kind of use that data to get a feel for how much each yard actually is wasting, and what is that yard of waste actually composed of. So, well, hopefully I didn't talk too much.
You're fine. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. If you have any follow-up questions, just shoot me an email, and I'll do my very best to answer.
Likewise, if you have a project that you want a bunch of engineering students to work on, we have several project teams, but we always have room for more. So if you ever think of anything where you're like, I wonder what the feasibility of this would be, we could look into creating a team to, even if you wanted just some ideas that get some students to come up with.
And likewise, if you guys ever need any practical experience, my executive director, he's a mechanical engineer. We have a couple other engineers on staff. So by all means, physical facilities, we have an energy center that I believe supplies heating and cooling to 30 buildings on campus. So it's pretty remarkable what they do. That's way over my head. But feel free to reach out.
Do you guys also maintain the green roof on Olson?
Yes.
And
I'll be reaching out to you.
Yeah.
We're trying to start another green roof
Okay, great.
project. So.
And by us, I mean physical facilities. That's grounds will go up there once or twice a year and try to maintain it to the best of their ability.
What about there's solar panels on top of Imposition, right?
Yes.
Do you guys also manage those, or is that someone?
Yes, it's physical facilities. Yeah, that's a huge solar array. We're very proud of it. It's not without its issues. But I'm not, I don't have enough knowledge on it to speak on it. But yes, it's big, field house and then well, the field house.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure. Again, a welcome distraction from COVID.
What did you say that surplus place was called again?
I'm sorry.
What did you say the surplus place was called?
It's just surplus property or central store.